Okay then, so back scenes. This might get a little bit controversial. This layout doesn't currently have any back scenes, and I was kind of intended that it would have some. I just wasn't sure about the kind of back scenes that I wanted, and there were a number of factors that affected that. One factor is I haven't made it easy on myself. I didn't leave much room to put back scenes in. I did sort of measure for them, but I ended up, as I laid baseboard, it kind of edged further and further towards the back of the loft, and I've left very little room to actually slide back scenes in. They're going to have to be very thin for a start. And I'm not, if I'm absolutely honest, I'm not massively keen on the shop bought kind of panoramic print ones. I do have a number of reasons for that, and this is kind of an area I've really thought about. Some of them are down to my own failings, some of them are just down to taste, I think. I mean, my own failings are I'm not sure I could do it. I'd end up buying them over and over again because I'd mess it up. And with the very small amount of space I've got for back scenes, it would be a very kind of impractical task to get the thing stuck onto these bits of wood or whatever I was going to use. The natural way to do it would probably once the bits of wood are in place, but that's going to be impractical. If I lay them on the floor and kind of paste it all on that way, it's going to be quite difficult to then laterally fit it in those small gaps there. So practicality is definitely one reason, but also the familiarity as well. You know, I did go and I looked on lots of websites that sell them, and kind of it felt like every one I saw that might suit this layout I recognised from many other layouts, and I thought there's a level of removing the immersion with that, in that if I stuck all those back scenes around the place that are kind of quite familiar to me, the immersion's gone, because I look at them, I think, oh, that's that back scene from that YouTube channel, that's that back scene from that YouTube channel. As well as that, there's a level of immersion in the room that they must lose. I think they look, you know, a lot of the ones I see on videos are only really work when they're specifically framed. And so it might work on a video, but it doesn't necessarily work in the room, because in the room it just looks like a poster stuck around the edge. There's no immersion because I can see over it. I still know I'm in a loft. I still know I'm on a model railway, and it just looks like, sorry, to me, especially in the room, it just looks like a poster stuck around the wall, and I'm not sure how much it adds to my enjoyment of my model railway. Over and above, it just hides a bit of loft. But hiding a bit of loft is not necessarily a negative thing. I think even just a plain kind of sky blue kind of background like this, as opposed to breeze block, is a step forward. And so I started to think, well, okay, maybe I'm not going to put printed backgrounds around the layout. I kind of ruled that out now. But what I might do is just paint some boards a natural colour, place them around the layout, and then I'm at least masking a bit of loft. So I got to the point where I'd sort of decided against the printed back scenes around the loft, for the practical reasons I'd mentioned, but also kind of need to bear in mind that I do think if I was going to put those back scenes around the edge of the loft, the reason why I would be doing it would be for framing, for making videos, because in those circumstances I can kind of create a little bit of immersion, because I can frame it so that there's no loft in the shot and it's just back scene and just trains, and when there's scenery there as well, you're kind of creating a little world, and that appeals. But I did then start thinking, well, okay, can I find a compromise? Can I have some boards stuck around the edge of the loft that hide the loft? That's kind of, you know, important, at least up to a certain level. Hide the fact that there's loft there, hide trusses and all that kind of stuff, and just create that small amount of immersion. And I can do that, and I've tried some sky blue. It doesn't kind of come quite across in the camera very well. I tried some sky blue, and it sort of looks okay. But then I started thinking, once that was in, I started thinking about chroma key or green screen, and whether, although I would only ever see these painted boards around the loft when I'm kind of up here playing with trains, could I kind of, from my technical mind point of view, because I like doing these things, could I maybe use these plain backgrounds to then start creating green screen backgrounds? Because I'm kind of into photography as well, I like taking photos. So can I impose my own photos on these boards purely for the purposes of making videos? Now, although green screen is the common term for the whole kind of green screen chroma key thing, the colour doesn't have to be green. It's just green is I think the best colour to use. It's the most recognisable in camera lenses, something like that. So it becomes the easiest to identify and work with. And kind of the whole concept of green screen is selecting a colour in the frame. So in this one, I would select that light blue colour, and making it transparent, so the video processing, whenever it sees that colour in the image, in the video, it makes it transparent. And then you place another image or video behind the one that has the transparency, so everything that becomes transparent in the video is replaced by whatever's behind, a scenic photograph, a panorama, some back scene or whatever. And so I thought, well, I don't want the loft surrounded by green, so can I do it with sky blue? Can I, instead of using green, can I use sky blue? And I did some experiments, and I'll maybe include them over the top of me talking here, and it kind of worked, but didn't work enough. There are a number of practical issues. Lighting is an issue. You can sort of see here that although that board's painted all the same colour, because different lights shine at different points, there are some areas that look a different shade of blue to others, which doesn't work. There's also an issue with shadows, but also light blue is an issue for me because of the era of trains I'm modelling, and obviously if it selects any light blue to make it transparent, I'm going to end up with transparent trains. I think this footage here shows some of the issues as well with using the sky blue as the chroma key. Although the backgrounds kind of work quite well, and the photographs being placed on it well, the windows of the coach are a particular giveaway that it just can't. Through the windows, the transparent material distorts the colour a little bit, and the software just misses it and doesn't replace it. So it's kind of a dead giveaway that it's green screen. And maybe part of the problem is that the sky blue as an immediate back scene doesn't work, because there needs to be some kind of transition between the layout, the railway, the trains, and the sky. And at that point, having ruled green out right at the start of this whole process, I kind of ruled it back in again, in a sense that, what if the blue represents the sky, what if I can get some green in between the land and the sky, create some kind of horizon up here, and can I actually shoehorn some green screen into the layout in a way that it still hides the loft and it doesn't look any worse, at least, than just blue? So the idea I've got now, and I've put this this green screen up, and I've experimented with it, and probably predictably the results are much more impressive than using blue. The details much sharper, and I'm really quite pleased with how the green screen side of things come. So now I just need to see if I can make it believable on a layout. And my plan is, I've put a couple of these boards in now, and they are measured and cut to go right up to kind of the rafters which are there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some battens down here, and I'm going to actually fix these blue boards to the diagonal coming down. These are pretty much horizontal, these boards. So I'm going to have light blue coming on a diagonal, which then represents the sky, and they'll meet these boards across the top. And I'm going to see if that will in any way kind of, with a bit of imagination obviously, the whole Teletubbies Windows XP look, see if that looks passable as a back scene. It's a really very basic, simple construction. All I've done is I've got some battens, and I maybe not easy to see from this angle, but I just kind of sawed a bit of it off to create a roughly 45-degree angle on the batten itself, which then makes it pretty perpendicular to the layout. The boards are just resting really down there. At the minute there's nothing fixing them down, or I might try and get down the back and fix them in somehow, just to make the joins between the boards a little bit less obvious, and then just drill a tiny little hole and put tiny little screws into those battens at the top, really, because although where the screws are will be hidden hopefully by the sky, it's 3mm MDF, and it's kind of like cardboard, so I want to make as little tiny holes on the edge of it as I can. And then the boards themselves are measured and cut to span exactly 2 trusses. The idea there being that because I want as small a gap as possible between them, because I want the green to be continuous, I'm leaving half of a truss, half of a batten exposed when I fasten one to it, so that the next one can be fastened right up to it and screwed to the same batten. A very quick look then at the software side of things, that add in the green screen. I use HitFilm Express. I've always used HitFilm Express for video editing. It does far more than I would ever need, and it's free. So first of all, I'm going to add an image, and the image goes on the lowest layer because that's the background. It's the thing when we add transparency to a higher layer, we want the transparency to reveal this image. This is a kind of a panorama image, so it's way too big for what I need at the minute. So if I hold the left shift button down and do that, it will just reduce the size of it a bit. So let's I don't need to worry, there's nothing that's going to be green screen at the bottom. If I go and show this one, there's nothing around this part of the video that's going to be green screen and going to reveal anything, so it doesn't matter if I leave a bit of a gap there. So let's put that about there. Then go and get my video footage and put that across the top of it, and this window here kind of shows what the video output will be, and at the minute it will just be, because this layer sat on top of that one, it will just output the full kind of green video. So I need to start adding the transparency, and that's in effects. If I go into effects and type green and add a green screen key to here, then suddenly we're starting to see the transparency added, the green removed from the picture, and therefore the reveal of the image below. It's exposed a few images. What I do like is, compared to the blue chroma key I was using before, the view through the windows is much better. I'm getting the background through the windows of the coach rather than just the chroma key behind. But there are imperfections. You see here, what's been exposed here is the fact that there's a spotlight shining on reflective matte emulsion, so the greens just become too distorted. The software can't recognize it as green, and therefore it's imperfect. There are settings down here. I can increase the minimum kind of coverage, and if I just keep scrolling it up, that does disappear, but that can have an effect on the things that you don't want to be affected by green, such as the coach. So I'm often a little bit reluctant to do that, and actually those imperfections moving forward, if I put them back in again, are things I need to fix in the room. There's no point in giving the software more to do than it has to do. So this is the kind of thing that I need to address in the room by either buying more expensive green screen paint, which would be less reflective, putting better lighting in there, whatever I need to do to make this green more consistent, give the software less to do. A way of cheating for the time being is actually the interactive part of the video stops around here, because this is where the coach is, and it's where it's moving. Everything that's above this point in the original video I don't want in, you know, I'd rather have image there than have background. I don't want the foil, I don't want the wire. So the way I can completely cheat to do that with this selected is go to the crop tool and just crop the video down and only keep the bits of the video with the interactive elements that I want. So if I go and do that, there we go, we've now lost the top of the video completely, and if I play this through, you just get the kind of the interactive bit, which is the bit I want. The train moving through, the windows are on the whole much better, and I end up with a I guess a basic green screen output. So here's a little bit more test footage. The idea here was to change the lighting so that the background green was more consistent. What it did do was expose that great big join down the middle of the two boards. I was interested to see how it handled that, but also that's perhaps going forward not a massive issue, because as the focus of the trains moves further back to where the station will be, it'll be easier to kind of focus on the foreground and blur out that green background, which hopefully will make a difference. But then, actually, when the substitutions happen, I was really surprised to find that join is completely gone. There are issues though. It's getting too dark at the right hand side of the screen, so it's struggling with the substitution there. And also there's a colour filter to try and stop the green reflection coming from the boards, which is affecting some of the colours, especially the yellows in this frame. And here I've reduced that overcorrection, and it's restored the kind of correct colour of the trains, but there is a little bit of green reflection on it. But that's only because they're so close to the board. And again, when I'm actually, if I get to the point where I'm actually using this in its intended way with the station, that's set much further back from those green screens, so there'll be far less green reflection for it to repair. From a green screen point of view then, I'm kind of thinking maybe I could do something with this. I think this is where the station will be, so I'm kind of looking at this kind of angle, and if I put some kind of maybe industrial back scene on there, something like that, a nice photo, there'll be a backdrop to a station, maybe this kind of angle and this kind of thing would work. There's, as I've kind of gone through, there are imperfections here. The lighting is terrible. It's cheap emulsion on cheap boards, which is not ideal. I'm giving the computer a lot of work to do, and when it's processing the video, there are special, I guess, non-reflective green screen paints that might make a difference. That their better lighting might make a difference, but I still think for a bit of fun, the whole green screen thing has got legs, I guess. The far bigger question, I think, that I really need to think about is, do I like this? Do I like this green around my layout? Is it too dominating? Is it too ugly? If I dropped that sky blue, would that be perhaps a little more inoffensive and less noticeable? Like I said before, I need something that's going to hide the loftness of it. I'd like to be able to use the green because it just gives me those options to play about with green screen, but it has to be inoffensive. It has to be not noticeable, and I'm still absolutely not sure about that at all. That's going to take a bit of thinking about. Coming back to the corner, I think one option I have, if I really don't fancy that green everywhere, is to just have the green screen backgrounds maybe in these corners here, and do something just in the corner. I think, just hiding it away, maybe in all four corners. It will be less noticeable and less dominant than if I was to place it all around the layout. So after a little bit of overthinking, I think I'm going to stick with it for now. I think things I need to bear in mind, I've touched on them already, is I'm right at the beginning of this, and there are a lot of factors involved that would make it work. The lighting's bad, as this is showing. I've used reflective, shiny green emulsion. The skyboards are difficult to work with because it's such thin MDF that's quite floppy and it's drooping there, so I need to think of ways to work with that. And also I'm using free software, and I haven't fully explored all of the settings in it and how to make the most of it. So I don't think at this point it's the right time to just abandon it and say no, that's not going to work for me. So I think these boards are replaceable now that they're in and they're all measured and stuff. It wouldn't be if I got to the point where I couldn't stand the green anymore, even if the upper deck was in place and there was a station here, it wouldn't take that much effort to pull these boards out and replace them with less offensive ones. So I think once the rain stops outside, I'll carry on, get the paintbrush back out again, and surround the loft in this green. It's relatively inexpensive as well. The paint buckets were £10 each. I think are from Wicks, Botanical Green, I think it's called. And so it's relatively inexpensive. I can paint over the boards that I haven't made bad sawing errors on. So it's not a dead end. It's not something I'm committing to forever, but I think it remains something that's worth investing more time in and exploring a little bit more.